So this might not be smell you later, Goku. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now, Goku's been a really weird character to figure out in Dragon Ball Super. The weirdest thing about Goku isn't the fact that he's started to become quite a bit sillier as of late, nor is it the time, or the places, or the incidents that he's forgotten about things. Never forget about the Mothra Jaw. The true mystery is that Goku has been incessantly pushed to the front of the show due to the powers of marketing. Sorry, that just came out of nowhere, sorry. The true mystery is, why does the main character of Dragon Ball Super have no character arc? It's really weird, because if you think about it, in the previous Dragon Ball series, even kind of like GT, Goku's had some kind of character development which is actually carried throughout the entire series. The whole original Dragon Ball was basically a big, massive, fantastic adventure journey to the West for a young Goku. The initial stages of Z taught Goku about his greater origin, how to cope with it, and better himself as a person because of it, and find new powers that were once never possible. And it all culminates in a climactic duel, him facing off against the tyrant that destroyed his people. But then again, you get into the Cell Saga, and Goku develops again. He starts to become more self-aware and responsible for his actions because he chooses to stay in the other world after he tries to rid the place in the universe and galaxy of Cell. He does that in order to atone for his transgression. And in the end, he even managed to finally figure out how to work with Vegeta. And by the end of the Z, he feels like he's managed to learn enough lessons that means he can reintegrate himself into Earth's society. GT was even able to do it. They managed to actually show Goku that there are consequences to using the Dragon Balls too much, and if you use them too much, it's gonna come back to bite you. 7 times. You got Battle of Gods, which taught Goku about beings higher up and powers that he never thought possible again. It declared Goku as the true protector of Earth, as well as established his relationship with the likes of Beerus. After Battle of Gods though, things started to get really stale. Goku really regressed back to prior to his state with Cell. He became a childlike entity who just lasted after battle after battle after battle. He had this power, he wanted to use it. He wanted to do it despite the consequences being pretty grave. He became annoying and forgetful, and it really rubbed loads of characters in the show up the wrong way. I lost my patience, and it became quite clear, especially at the beginning of the Universe Survival arc, that Goku was starting to become a danger for everyone concerned. And yes, a lot of this can easily be attributed to poor writing, the direction that Toei wants to make with the character, or simply the fact that they really need to get Goku out there as much as possible to sell loads and loads of merchandise and make lots and lots of money, but I think there might be an answer for that, and that came with episode 129. Let's try and put into bullet points what Goku's done throughout the entirety of Super. 1. He befriends the gods and ultimately learns Ultra Instinct, discovering a whole new dimension of fighting that he never thought possible. 2. He fought the likes of Frieza again, arguably one of his biggest foes, but ultimately becomes a rather surprising ally. 3. He fights the warriors of their twin universe, Universe 6. 4. He befriends the Omni King, gains their interest and favour. 5. He faces against a dark version of himself. 6. He manages to outsmart his evil counterpart and actually managed to find the Omni King a friend, which is basically the same person, but, you know, 2's better than 1. 7. He recruits his former enemies for the Tournament of Power. 8. He reaches Ultra Instinct twice, and both times it fails him. 9. He reaches Ultra Instinct for the 3rd time, and then has the best and most important breath of his life. And 10. He masters Ultra Instinct. But as you can see, even though the list of things that Goku did started to get rather stale, he has come up against really formidable people. I haven't even touched upon Hit's power, nor Jiren's solar power versus Goku's lunar power, as we saw towards the end of the Tournament of Power. More enemies become allies, former allies become enemies again. Goku had to face his evil self. We had a lot of pairs and role reversals in Super as well. But we also got a lot of threes. 2 Zenos along with the GP form the Holy Trinity, and every universe has a divine trio. 3 times our gang traveled to the future to fight Zamasu and Goku Black, and Goku fought Jiren 3 times. With all this talk of numbers, we need to look into numerology and try and figure out why is Toei and Toriyama so obsessed with 2s and 3s? So let's take a little bit of an idea about why that is. The number 2 symbolizes many of the basic dualities: me and you, male and female, yes and no, alive and dead, left and right, yin and yang, and so on. Dualities are common in human approaches to the world, probably because of our preference for two-valued logic. Yet another duality, true and false. One reason that some have associated 2 with evil is that the biblical book of Genesis does not use the formula "and it was good" when referring to the second day of creation. The number 2 is often associated with negatives, as in the words duplicity and two-faced. Northwest Coast Indians required the parents of twins to observe various taboos because they believed that supernatural powers would bring the wishes of twins to fruition. And if we choose to delve into the Chinese interpretations, things get even more interesting. However, 2 has another interesting use in dialects of different places in China, but mostly negative. In Shaanxi province, 2 is used as an adjective to ironically describe those who are intemperate, reckless, or intrepid. So when someone says you are or bai wu, 250, it is not a word of praise. In Baoding and some cities in northeastern China, it has the meaning of stupidity, and people usually make fun of each other with it. And it kind of makes sense with Goku's personality in Super. He is acting with stupidity, he is being really intemperate and impertinent, and rubbing people up the wrong way, to the point where people are making fun of him, or kind of questioning his beliefs despite him doing so much for the planet. But luckily for him, due to the number 3 coming into his life so many times, it's helped him, in a way, metaphorically, learn Ultra Instinct, and the number 3 for Goku comes into play. The number 3 is a very mystical and spiritual number featured in many folktales. In ancient Babylon, the 3 primary gods were Anu, Baal, and Ea, representing heaven, earth, and the abyss. Similarly, there were 3 aspects to the Egyptian sun god: Khepri, Re, and Atum. In Christianity, there is the Trinity of God: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Plato saw 3 as being symbolic of the triangle, the simplest spatial shape, and considered the world to have been built from triangles. Good thing you don't let Ten Shinhan around to turn those triangles into squares. 3 is the number of the divine. 3, as the song goes, is the magic number. And if you want to go into Monty Python, you must answer me these questions 3. But Masako, what does this have to do with him breathing? And him having no character arc? And why do you hate Vegeta, Masako? Unsubscribe! Well, let me introduce you to the art of breathing meditation. And as the website ocoy.org explains, it's also the breathing of life. It goes on to describe a story revolving around the likes of Buddha. At the time of his childhood, there was a festival known as the Plowing Festival. One year, he got tired of going to this festival and instead chose to spend his time sat under a tree. And he was relaxing. Suddenly, he descended into a profound state of meditation, something that he'd never experienced before, all by solely concentrating on the rhythm of his own breath. By the end of the day, his parents were looking for him and found him completely nestled under the tree, lost in his own thoughts and breathing patterns. After many years of trying and then ultimately giving up, he decided to give it one more try and figured out how to get the best circumstances in order to try and recreate that event. He chose to sit under a tree and try to relax, but it wasn't quite the same. It wasn't the same circumstances. But then it hit him. That experience happened on the day of the Plowing Festival. That was it, that was the hook. With all of those things happening at the same time, Buddha was finally able to reach nirvana. Meditation and breathing are some of the most important parts of the practice. It's a way to reach enlightenment, a way to achieve the full body experience. When the Buddha says experiencing the whole body, he is not referring to the physical body, but to the breath itself, in its entirety. The idea being that each moment of the breath is keenly and clearly perceived by the meditator without any vagueness or fuzziness in his awareness. This is important. Never is consciousness of the breath lost or peripheral, for the breath is the sole subject of our meditation. Buddha also says in the Ananda Sutra, "I tell you that the in and out breath is classed as a body among bodies," which is why the monk on that occasion remains focused on the body in and itself, ardent, alert, and mindful. By finding balance and mastering his own breath, Goku was finally able to perfect Ultra Instinct, something he tried to touch upon but didn't quite pull off. The 3rd time he perfected Ultra Instinct, none of his thoughts were clouding his mind, only the voices of those around him were puncturing and going through into his consciousness. His mind was clear. He was his friends and allies' vessel. But one thing became ultimately clear to Goku. if he truly wished to succeed in the Tournament of Power, or at least stand a fighting chance, he had to undergo something big, what is known as an ego death. An ego death is actually pretty self-explanatory. It's the death of one's ego. What makes you you? What makes you you has to be eschewed in order to reach a higher state of being and enlightenment. It's a big thing to give up. Essentially, with an ego death, you have to forget yourself. And I think that's what Goku was actually doing somewhat in episode 109, when his body went through that metaphorical black hole. It was being stripped away, his personality. He became a shell, and therefore, the powers of Ultra Instinct were able to flow, something that he'd been trained by the likes of Whis to do, but couldn't quite pull off due to his own inflated ego. When consciousness stops ruling the roost, anything is possible. Goku literally had to strip himself of everything of who he was. Good and evil traits, nothing could be spared. I could go on and on and on, but one thing I really need to touch upon is that now Goku's reached the limits of his own power, he's also reached the same limits of that of his existence. He can't really top this. Goku's witnessed true death, and I'm not talking about the death that we're used to in Dragon Ball, the other world where it's all, oh, happy-go-lucky Kais, and ooh-do-do-do-do, go to train in the next dimension, do-do-do-do-do. No, he experienced nothingness. Your identity completely gone. As I talked about in a previous video, I thought that Oob and Goku's experience was him trying to act on purely selfish reasons. He wasn't trying to help Oob out, he was just trying to make himself happy. This might be why. Because after that ego death, Goku's outlook on life changed, and now he was able to come across the likes of Oob, things started to flood back in again. His ego was returning. Because there is some implied sadness when you get to episode 289, and those last 3 episodes of Z, Goku is not quite the same person. Yeah, he's talkative, he knows the people, he's kept his memory per se, but he's not as rambunctious as he once was. After seeing the absolute limits what a living creature could do, that kind of changes a person. But you want to know something weird and pretty interesting? Whis was basically paraphrasing all that stuff he said, the dialogue as Goku was fighting Jiren in episode 129, as describing the power and what Goku's achieved. He's basically become Buddha. I wonder if this is Toei in some way saying goodbye to Goku, a changing of the guard as it were. Something that we've been used to for the longest time, changing in a significant way, and that might be the impetus as to the whole brand recognition and design change in the upcoming movie. This artwork is not what we've been used to for the last 25 years. This is completely different, something new, and maybe this ego death of Ultra Instinct is the catalyst to actually give us something completely different and fresh. It may not just be on a spiritual light, but an artistic light too. But at the same time, I don't think this is the right type of show in order to try and explore the depths of spirituality, but there is something in there, something nestled within the anime and all the fighting and punchy stuff. Something very spiritual, but also something really sad. All that remains to be said is, farewell, Goku. So what do you guys think? Do you think there's something to it? Or do you think the merchandising power of Goku will keep him living forever? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!